My sister treated me like free childcare, so I showed her what neglect really costs. She thought she could ruin my trip, dump her baby on my doorstep in the middle of winter, and walk away. But I had security footage, CPS on speed dial, and a life that didn't revolve around her. Now she's paying the price. You ever have one of those moments where you laugh not because something's funny, but because it's so ridiculous you can't even believe it's real? That was me, sitting on my living room couch, staring at a pastel binder covered in sunflowers and glittery gel pen lettering. My Little Village, it said on the cover. Inside were calendar pages, hand-illustrated checklists, and bulleted schedules titled things like Auntie Livia's morning routine with baby and Sunday family bonding. You bring snacks. My name is Livia. I'm 32 years old, and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I plan high-end corporate events for a living, and I'm damn good at it. Or I was until my older sister Celeste decided I'd be better off as her unpaid babysitter. She sat across from me on the couch, grinning like she had just given me front-row tickets to Beyoncé. She looked very pleased with herself, sipping a turmeric latte while I flipped through the pages. You're kidding, I said finally, letting out that disbelieving laugh. Nope, she said, popping the pea like it was cute. This is going to be so good for us. You and Ellie are going to bond like crazy, and it'll be a huge help while I finish my doula certification. I already told everyone you were on board. I blinked. What do you mean, told everyone? Her eyes lit up. Check your phone. I did, and there it was. A new blog post from her site, Rooted Wellness with Celeste. A photo of her cradling her baby bump. A soft filter making her look angelic. The caption read, "Gratitude for the women who lift us up. My sister Livia, my baby's future caregiver and lifelong guide. Thank you for your selfless love." I was tagged. My inbox was already filling up. Heart emojis, people saying how amazing I was. Coworkers, old friends, even a couple of my clients had commented. What the hell, Celeste? She blinked, all innocence. What? People love it. It's inspiring. I stood up. You basically volunteered me to give up my life, my weekends, my mornings, holidays? Are you serious? Celeste pouted. Livia, it's family. That's what family does. You're always saying how you don't want kids of your own. This way you get the best part without the mess. I didn't even respond. I just left the binder on the coffee table and walked to the kitchen to breathe. I could already see where this was going. By the end of the week, it had spiraled. My mother called to say how proud she was. Celeste told me you offered to help, sweetheart. That's what big-hearted women do. I didn't offer, I said flatly. Well, it's already out there now, she sighed, like I was being difficult. Let's not make a scene. A few clients made casual comments. One even joked, I don't know how you're going to juggle motherhood and all this travel. I laughed politely, but inside, I was panicking. I tried to call Celeste again, but she just kept saying things like, you're overreacting, and this is what support looks like. It didn't matter what I said. Everyone had already decided I was the hero in her story. And Celeste? She was the author. It wasn't a binder. It was a trap, and I had just walked right into it. 6 months later, I was standing in the middle of the Renaissance Ballroom at the Raleigh Convention Center, clipboard in hand, headset buzzing with updates. The event was less than 2 hours from going live, a corporate gala for a Fortune 500 client, and my adrenaline was peaking. That's when I got the text. Celeste, family emergency. Be there in 5. 5 minutes later, she breezed in like she was walking into a spa, yoga pants, oversized sunglasses, and that same beatific smile she used to con people into saying yes. Only this time, she was pushing a stroller with baby Ellie strapped in, drooling all over a stuffed giraffe. I can't do this right now, I said immediately, pulling my mic away from my mouth. I'm working. Celeste kissed Ellie's forehead. I just need a couple hours. I booked a scalp massage and a lymphatic drainage thing. My nervous system is fried, Livia. You wouldn't understand, you've never been postpartum. You said family emergency. She gave me a sheepish shrug. It is an emergency. For my soul. Before I could argue, she unbuckled Ellie, plopped her into my arms, and practically jogged toward the exit, calling out, there's milk in her bag. Love you. And just like that, she was gone. I stood there stunned, holding a 6-month-old in the middle of a multi-million-dollar gala setup. I looked around. My team was watching me. One of the caterers actually muttered, is that your kid? Nope, I said. Definitely not. I didn't have time to be angry. I had 30 tables to inspect, a lighting team on standby, and a client who'd flown in from Chicago breathing down my neck. I flagged down Casey, my summer intern, 19, eager and terrified of messing up. Can you do me a massive favor? I said, already handing Ellie over. Just sit with her in the side room for 20 minutes. Keep her upright. Don't feed her anything. Don't move. Casey nodded like he was guarding a nuclear device. Got it. I powered through the rest of the prep, checking in between sessions to make sure Ellie hadn't exploded or swallowed her foot. To Casey's credit, he kept her entertained with TikTok filters and gummy smiles. But I was mortified. I finally confronted my mother again later that night. Told her Celeste had dumped Ellie on me during an event. Oh honey, she said, like I was being dramatic. Celeste is trying her best. She needs help. She booked a massage, Mom. That's not trying. That's manipulating. Well, you don't know what she's going through. That was the problem. Everyone acted like Celeste was a delicate bird recovering from trauma. But she wasn't a war survivor. She was a woman who got pregnant, quit her job, and decided the world owed her a support staff. The worst part? Celeste started doing it more often. Random Tuesday mornings, Saturday brunch hours, always with a chirpy "be back soon," and no plan for how or when. Every time I thought, this is the last time. But I never knew how to make it true. It was supposed to be one of the best days of my life, not mine personally, but close. My best friend Kara was getting married, and I was maid of honor. We'd been planning the day for months, every detail from the custom signature cocktails to the peony arrangements timed to bloom just right. It was the kind of event that reminded me why I loved what I did. I got there early, hair done, makeup flawless, dressed zip with the help of 3 bridesmaids and a bottle of champagne. I was standing near the altar with Kara's bouquet in hand, feeling calm, ready, and actually happy, a rarity these days. Then I saw the stroller. It came into view like a slow-moving storm cloud, gliding down the path between folding white chairs, pushed by a woman in a flowy lavender maxi dress and enormous sunglasses. Celeste. Hey! She whispered loud enough to make a few guests turn. I'm just dropping her off. You got this, right? I froze. What are you doing here? She handed me a folded note. Handle this, I've got a date. And before I could stop her, she vanished. Just walked away. In heels. I stood there in disbelief, holding Kara's bouquet in one hand and Celeste's baby in the other. Ellie started to whimper immediately, then wail loudly. The ceremony was minutes away. I looked around. There were no interns, no staff. This wasn't a gala or a public venue where I could disappear backstage. I was in the wedding, and now I was in it with a screaming baby on my hip. I ducked into the church's side bathroom, locked the door, and tried to rock Ellie into calmness. Her tiny fists flailed against my dress. Her cheeks were flushed and sweaty. That's when I noticed the faint dark marks on her left arm, small round, like someone had gripped her too hard. I blinked. They weren't dramatic, but they weren't nothing. I gently shifted her sleeve up. The skin was discolored, uneven. Not fresh, but still there. The baby screamed louder, and I couldn't tell if it was hunger or fear or just plain baby noise, but all I could think was, what the hell is happening to this kid? The wedding started without me. Kara walked down the aisle without her maid of honor. I missed the vows, the pictures, the moment I had promised to stand beside her for. And it wasn't until I emerged from the bathroom, hair frizzed and dress stained with formula, that people started whispering, "Is that Livia? What happened? Where's Kara's bouquet?" I handed Ellie off to the nearest seat-warming cousin I could find and ran to apologize. Kara was polite. Confused, yes. Disappointed, definitely. But kind enough not to ruin her own day over my train wreck of a life. Later that night, I got a text from Celeste. Just a thumbs-up emoji. Then, everything go okay? I stared at the screen, pulse thumping. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, or drive to her house and leave Ellie there on the porch like she was a package. But all I did was text back. Don't ever do that again. Celeste replied. Wow, someone's hormonal. And just like that, I knew this wasn't going to stop. Not unless I made it. I'd been counting down to this trip for months. Norway, fjords, northern lights, and more importantly, Sam, my fiancé. We'd been doing long distance ever since he transferred to Oslo for work. 8 months of Zoom calls and time zone math of missed birthdays and lonely mornings. This trip was my light at the end of a very long, very baby-filled tunnel. I booked the flights, arranged time off, even left emergency contacts with my assistant in case anything blew up while I was gone. My suitcase was half-packed a week early, something I never do. I was ready. That's when Celeste invited me to dinner. It was at our parents' house, which should have been my first warning. She never did anything that wasn't staged. We sat around the dining table, half-eaten roast chicken in front of us, my mother fussing with napkins like she was avoiding landmines. So, Celeste said, like she was sharing great news. I finally booked that wellness retreat in Sedona. I sipped my wine. Good for you. It's for the same week you were gonna be gone, she continued, slicing her chicken with smug precision. Isn't that perfect? You'll already be off work. I paused. Sorry, what? She didn't even look up. You can watch Ellie while I'm gone. I'll be in Norway. Celeste tilted her head, like she didn't understand the sentence. Right, but I figured you could change it. It's not like you have to go that week. My fork clattered onto my plate. Celeste, I haven't seen Sam in almost a year. She gave a breezy shrug. Ellie hasn't seen you in 3 days. Family first, right? Our mom chose that exact moment to refill the water pitcher, pretending not to hear a word. I'm not changing my trip, I said flatly. For a beat, nobody spoke. Then Celeste smiled slow, fake polite. Okay, she said sweetly. If that's your decision, that should have been the end of it. I left dinner early, heart racing, already dreading the next move. But even I didn't expect what came next. The morning of my flight, I woke up to the sound of knocking. Not frantic, just steady. I checked my phone, 5:42 a.m. I pulled on a robe and opened the door. There she was, Ellie, in a thin onesie, in a car seat on my doorstep. No adult in sight. Taped to the handle of the seat was a post-it note. Thanks for watching her. Be back in a week. XO, Celeste. My jaw dropped. The baby's nose was red from the cold. Her hands were bare. It was 38 degrees outside. I yanked her inside, wrapped her in a throw blanket, and ran for the thermostat. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type in the number for CPS. While I was on hold, I opened my doorbell camera footage. It showed Celeste's SUV pulling up at 5:27 a.m., headlights off. She didn't even walk Ellie to the door, just placed her down like a package and drove off without knocking. I stared at the screen, and something inside me broke. Not cracked, not bent, broke. When the caseworker answered, I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. I need to report child abandonment. There's a baby in my home that was left here without consent. She asked for names, dates, footage. I sent it all. I didn't cry. Not when CPS arrived. Not when I watched Ellie's car seat get buckled into a state vehicle. Not even when the agent said, "You did the right thing." I just stood there, teeth clenched, watching the sun come up over my canceled trip and my destroyed front porch. And I knew with crystal clarity that nothing would ever be the same again. I thought maybe, just maybe, calling CPS would be the end of it. But with Celeste, there was no end. Only escalation. The next day, a social worker named Moira called to say that Ellie had been placed in emergency care. "We reviewed the footage you submitted," she told me, "and we did a medical evaluation. There are concerns, bruising, signs of prior neglect. We'll be moving forward with an investigation." I didn't feel relief, just this strange, numb ache in my chest, like I'd been holding my breath for months and forgot how to breathe again. That night, while I was reorganizing my canceled travel plans and sobbing into a pile of clean laundry, my phone buzzed. "Celeste, how's my little angel doing?" No apology, no explanation, just that same smug entitlement in emoji form. I didn't answer. 2 days later, they showed up. Celeste and our mother pounding on my apartment door like they were trying to break in. I was halfway through reheating a frozen burrito when I heard the yelling in the hallway. "Livia!" Celeste's voice was shrill. "Open the door." I opened it a crack. Big mistake. Celeste barreled through like a linebacker. Our mother right behind her, tearful and trembling. "You absolute backstabber," Celeste hissed, throwing her purse down. "You called CPS? Over what? A favor?" I stepped back, heart thudding. "You abandoned your child on my doorstep at dawn in freezing weather." My mother cut in, her voice already breaking. She was overwhelmed. "She made a mistake. You didn't need to involve strangers. This could have been handled in the family." I stared at her. "Handled how, Mom?" "By pretending it didn't happen." Celeste lunged forward and shoved me. Not hard enough to knock me down, but enough to make my teeth rattle. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she snapped. "You've always been jealous. That's what this is. You never wanted me to be a mom. You hate that people love me, and you can't stand that Ellie loves me more than you." I didn't move. I didn't yell. I just walked over to the shelf by my door and grabbed the remote. Then I played the footage. The doorbell camera. Her car pulling up. Her getting out. No knocking. Just dropping Ellie like she was a grocery bag and speeding off. I turned the screen toward them. My mother gasped. Celeste's face froze, then cracked. "You filmed me," she whispered. "No, I had security. Because you've been crossing lines for a long time." There was a knock on the door. Sam, my fiancé, had landed that morning and showed up just in time to see Celeste trying to rip open my hall closet, yelling about Ellie's clothes. "Hey," he said, stepping in. "What the hell is going on?" Celeste turned, eyes wild. "She stole my child's things. She's keeping her away from me." Sam looked at me. I nodded once, calm, measured. Then I called Moira. Again. When the police showed up, they took statements, reviewed the footage, and quietly removed both women from my apartment. Celeste screamed the whole time. "This is abuse. This is a setup." Our mother cried the entire walk to the elevator. As they left, Celeste pointed at me with shaking hands. "You think this ends with you? It doesn't. I will ruin you." I didn't say a word. Sam stepped beside me and closed the door behind them. Then he looked at me for a long time. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, but I wasn't. Not really. Not yet. The harassment didn't start right away. There were 3 quiet days after Celeste and my mother got escorted from my apartment. Long, still days where I thought maybe they'd finally gotten the message. Maybe the footage, the police, the intervention from CPS had cut through the delusion. But then the packages started. The first one came to my office, a plain brown box marked urgent. Inside was a bundle of baby clothes, all size 6 to 9 months. No note, just a tiny pink onesie with Auntie's favorite across the chest. Then came the emails, blank subject lines, attachments with nothing but scanned pictures of Ellie, every hour, then every 15 minutes. Then the social media accounts started popping up. At Justice for Ellie, at Family Before Foster, at Livia the Baby Snatcher. Celeste's face was in every profile pic, glowing with filtered motherhood. The captions were all the same. "My baby was stolen. My sister betrayed me." My inbox filled with comments. Strangers, extended family, even one of my clients. Most assumed I had stepped in heroically to foster my niece. Others weren't so kind. "Why would you take someone's baby away from them? You had a career and no kids. Now you have what you wanted." Blood is thicker than bitterness. I reported every account, blocked dozens, changed my phone number, installed a new lock and a second camera at my front door. I even moved apartments. Celeste still found me. One day I came home and found my mailbox ripped open. Inside was a pacifier, stained with something I couldn't identify. The next week, my building's doorman stopped a woman trying to leave a stuffed animal in front of my door. Celeste's friend apparently. Or her wellness coach. Who knows anymore? Moira, the CPS caseworker, called me for an update. I told her everything, the stalking, the fake accounts, the mail tampering. She listened quietly, then said, "There's something else I think you should know." Celeste had failed her most recent toxicology screening. Amphetamines, stimulants, likely not prescribed. Her behavior lines up, Moira said. The impulsiveness, the paranoia, the emotional instability. We're building a case, but we're moving cautiously for Ellie's safety. Then she said something that stopped me cold. Her ex-partner came forward. Apparently, Celeste's ex, Ellie's biological father, had reached out after seeing the recent CPS involvement. He'd been quiet for months, maybe out of fear or shame, but now he was cooperating. He had evidence. Screenshots of texts where Celeste admitted leaving Ellie alone in the car. Photos of bruises. A hospital record from her visit when Ellie had fallen. But the nurse flagged the injury as suspicious. He had even saved voicemails. Celeste screaming incoherent, calling Ellie a parasite. Moira sounded tired, but resolute. "With everything you've provided," she said, "and what we're getting from the father, we're preparing to move Ellie into foster care, temporarily, while custody gets reviewed." I sat on my couch in silence after that call. My hands were cold even under a blanket. I hadn't asked for this. I didn't want to be the villain in Celeste's story, or the hero in Ellie's. I just wanted my life back, my boundaries, my freedom. But looking at my phone with Moira's number still on screen, I realized something. Celeste had waged war. And for once, I wasn't the one retreating. The custody case landed in court 2 months later. By then, Celeste's harassment had slowed, mostly because her accounts kept getting suspended and her new number was flagged in my phone as do not answer. But I knew she wasn't gone. She was regrouping, waiting. The courtroom smelled like floor polish and cold coffee. Sam sat beside me in his one decent blazer, gripping my hand under the table. Moira sat on my other side with folders full of documentation, photos, emails, timestamps, and video footage. Across the aisle, Celeste sat with her lawyer and our mother, looking like she'd stepped out of a wellness retreat catalog. She wore ivory. Her hair was perfectly curled, her makeup soft. She looked like peace incarnate. The transformation would have been impressive if I hadn't seen her screaming at my door 2 months earlier, veins popping in her neck. The judge looked exhausted before we even began. He was one of those no-nonsense types. Didn't smile, didn't small talk, just opened the file and started asking questions. Celeste's lawyer started with a sob story. "My client has been under extraordinary pressure," he said solemnly. "She has suffered emotional duress, abandonment by her support system, and the betrayal of a sister who weaponized child protective services against her." I rolled my eyes. Celeste took the stand and painted herself as a misunderstood mother. She cried about postpartum hormones, said the doorbell footage was taken out of context, claimed I had been desperate to keep Ellie and had always wanted to replace her as a mother. Then she said it. Livia can't have children of her own. She resents me for being able to. Sam's hand tightened around mine like a vice. My turn. Moira submitted the video. Celeste placing Ellie on my doorstep, half-dressed, not even knocking, then driving off. We submitted texts, emails, screenshots, a printout of the "handle this, I've got a date" note from the wedding, footage of her trying to break into my apartment, and finally the toxicology report. Then came Ellie's father, quiet, nervous, but steady. He submitted his own evidence. The ER visit, the threatening voicemails, the proof that he tried to contact Celeste multiple times to see Ellie and had been ignored or blocked. The judge asked one question. "Why didn't you pursue custody earlier?" He paused, then answered quietly, "Because I didn't think I was better than her. But now I know I have to be." Celeste's composure cracked. She whispered something to her lawyer, then glared at me like she could melt me with her eyes. Our mother gripped her arm and shook her head as if trying to hold her together. Then came the ruling. The judge didn't draw it out. He terminated Celeste's custody immediately. Her visitation rights were suspended. A protective order was issued not just for Ellie but for me as well. And for Sam, after the court learned she tried to follow him home once after work. Our mother tried to protest, but the bailiff silenced her with a look. Celeste stood, trembling. "This is your fault," she spat at me. "You stole everything from me. You ruined my life." I didn't move. I just looked at her, not with anger, not even pity, just clarity. "No," I said quietly. "You did that all by yourself." When I walked out of that courtroom, I wasn't alone. Sam held one hand. Moira gave me a nod. And behind me, 2 relatives, cousins who used to whisper behind my back, gave me a thumbs up. For the first time in months, I didn't feel crazy. I felt seen. And more than that, I felt free. Winning in court didn't mean it was over. Celeste had lost custody, yes. She'd been issued a restraining order. Her online smear campaign had collapsed. But none of that stopped what came next, the quiet, seeping kind of chaos. The kind that doesn't make headlines, just ruins your peace in slow, calculated ways. It started with letters, anonymous of course, handwritten notes in purple ink that said things like, "You'll answer for what you did," and "Mothers never forget." Then came the packages, more baby clothes. One box contained a melted candle and a prayer card with Ellie's name scribbled on it. Another had nothing but shredded paper and a pacifier in the center, like some twisted centerpiece. Moira told me not to worry. "We're documenting everything," she said. "The harassment's just prolonging her time away from Ellie. She doesn't realize that yet. It wasn't just Celeste anymore. Aunts I hadn't spoken to in years sent Facebook messages dripping with guilt. You didn't have to destroy her. You were always jealous. She just needed help, Livia." Help. That word had become poison. The worst came 2 weeks after the hearing. Ellie's daycare called me, not because she was there, but because someone had tried to pick her up using my name. They asked the woman for ID. She fled. They called CPS. Moira looped me in immediately. "You're not listed as a guardian," she said carefully, "but given the history, we're flagging it as an attempted abduction." My stomach turned. I hadn't even known Ellie had been placed at a local daycare as part of her foster transition. Now I did. And so apparently did Celeste. The next week I moved. Again. Different part of Raleigh. Gated building. Private security. Sam updated the security system himself and changed every password in our lives. And then, like some cruel punchline to all of it, Ellie's father got into a car accident, rear-ended by a drunk driver. 2 broken ribs. A fractured clavicle. Nothing life-threatening, but enough that he needed a temporary placement for Ellie, just until he recovered. That's when I got the call. Moira's voice was gentle. "We know this is a lot, and you're not obligated, but Ellie trusts you, and frankly there's no one else." I didn't even hesitate. "Yes," I said. It felt like jumping into cold water. Jarring. I see. But weirdly, right? Ellie came to me with a single duffel bag and the same stuffed giraffe I remembered from the gala 6 months earlier. She was quiet at first, eyes wide, like she wasn't sure if this was a punishment or a reward. But after her first bath and grilled cheese sandwich, she crawled onto my lap and fell asleep like she'd never done anything else. Sam cried that night. I didn't. I just sat beside her crib and watched her breathe. That week was chaos. Diapers, toys, frozen dinosaur chicken nuggets. Sam and I took turns sleeping in shifts. Ellie had nightmares the first few nights. Woke up screaming once, calling for Mama, but it passed. By the end of week 2, she smiled in her sleep. And just as things began to settle, Celeste escalated again. She showed up in disguise at the apartment building. A hoodie, sunglasses. Tried to get buzzed in by a delivery guy. The front desk recognized her and called the police. That time, the judge didn't hesitate. 6 more months added to her sentence for violating the restraining order. 1 count of attempted kidnapping. And 1 for harassment. I didn't attend the hearing. I didn't need to. I was home. With Ellie. With Sam. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't managing chaos. I was building something safe, something real. Time moved differently after that. We settled into a rhythm, Sam, Ellie, and me. Mornings with pancakes and spilled juice. Afternoons of park swings and tiny shoes flung across the living room. Nights with lullabies and Sam learning how to braid toddler curls. Ellie began to hum to herself when she played. She'd laugh at the silliest things, the dog across the hall, a squeaky door, her own burps. That laugh? It was the sound of safety, of healing. Her father recovered within a couple months. He visited every weekend, first in supervised sessions, then at the park with us, and finally for full afternoons. I liked him more than I expected. He was soft-spoken, a little awkward, but steady. And most importantly, he showed up. When the time came for Ellie to return to him full-time, it wasn't dramatic. No court hearing, no sudden farewell, just a slow handoff, 1 diaper bag at a time, 1 bedtime routine shared, 1 small wave goodbye from the car seat. And you know what? She was okay. She adjusted. She remembered. She called me Auntie and Sam, the pancake man. And when we visited, because we did, she ran to us with open arms, not confusion or fear. She was safe. She was loved. That was all we'd ever wanted. As for Celeste, she violated parole within 6 weeks of being released, tracked to a hotel 2 counties away with drugs in her system and another restraining order violation under her belt. She was sent back. But I didn't read the court transcript. Didn't even flinch when Moira emailed me the update, because I'd stopped checking. I'd stopped waiting for the next disaster. I had a life now. A real one. Sam and I got married quietly in the spring. Just us and a few friends at a garden venue outside Asheville. No white dress, no floral arch, no drama. Just vows written on hotel notepads and exchanged under a tree dripping with moss. My mother didn't come. Neither did Celeste, obviously. But surprisingly, a few family members did. Quiet ones. The cousins who never took sides. One of them handed me a gift card with a trembling hand and whispered, "I'm sorry. We didn't know how bad it was." I didn't answer. Just nodded. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. We spent our honeymoon driving the Blue Ridge Parkway, windows down, playlists full of songs that had nothing to do with grief or obligation. We stopped at diners and antique stores and motels with flickering signs. And for the first time, I could breathe without scanning for the next crisis. A year later, we were invited to Ellie's birthday. Her father threw her a backyard party. There were cupcakes with too much frosting and kids chasing each other with foam swords. No grand gestures, no curated aesthetic, just messy, loud joy. Ellie hugged me with sticky fingers and said, "You came?" "Always," I said, kissing her head. And I meant it. She was okay now. And so was I.